Alright guys, as you saw, we got our beam back finally. We got it all wrapped up under here. See, we can take a little look. It came out really nice. The dimensions are perfect. They gave us a little extra on the ends. That came out good, so that's nice. So once we're ready for that, that'll be the header for the garage door. This is 18 feet long. Our garage door is 16 feet wide, so that's the header for the garage door up there. But that's not really what this video is about. We got a new toy, and it's down here, right over here. But first I want to go up to the top and kind of explain the reasoning behind our new toy. Up here, I got a 2-foot overhang coming off the edge of this wall, but even yet, with this mono pitch truss, you can see it over there, all of this snow is going to be landing right on this little road here. For those of you that remember, this is access for the power company. The power company has an easement for their line that they got running up and over this. We have to keep that clear. The other thing is, look at this driveway. This driveway is huge. I haven't measured it out, but I mean, it's a couple 100-yard driveway. So we needed something to keep the driveway clear as well. So with that being said, you can imagine how much snow is going to be off the edge of that. It's going to be a lot. I've used a snowblower before, and snowblowers work great. This driveway is way too long for a snowblower. There's not a chance. It would take me 2 hours to do this driveway, let alone a snowblower is not going to cut into that really solid bank that's going to be all consolidated, sliding off the roof. We couldn't afford a plow for a truck. They're actually much more expensive than I would have ever imagined. I have a plow for the four-wheeler. I've done the plow for the four-wheeler. It works better than a snowblower. It's quicker, but it doesn't have enough weight on it to get to the bottom. So eventually you build a snow floor and it just kind of sucks. It builds ruts. The car is a lot heavier than the four-wheeler, so once you have a snow floor, the car will put ruts in it, and the four-wheeler isn't heavy enough to plow those ruts out. It doesn't have enough weight to it. So we went out and we bought this. This is a 1934 Allis Chalmers Model M. And I think I'm going to call it Dink. It's kind of a dinky little dozer. So this thing was not designed to be a dozer. This came from the factory as a crawler in 1934. The intention of this machine in 1934 was to hook a piece of field equipment to the back of this and drag it through a field, you know, a disc, a tiller, something. So it's got this huge drawbar on the back. I mean, just thick. That's at least 1/2-inch steel. And it was designed to pull stuff through a field. Somebody has since retrofitted this dozer blade on the front. It's a fair blade. It's pretty straight. It's not perfect. It's from 1934, the whole thing. So this is what we're gonna use to plow snow, hopefully. It's a cool little machine. Over here, it does need an end cap. You can see right here, someone must have backed into something, but it does need some sort of end cap to go on there. That's what that bolt's for there. And you'll notice that I have tools out already and parts off already, and that's not a good sign. It doesn't run yet. The guy we bought it from, he had this whole thing taken apart at one point. The story goes, some guy had it, it was running, for whatever reason, he just left it. It was running, he parked it, he let it sit outside. There's this open muffler right here, open exhaust, and what happened was some water got into that, and on cylinder number 1 it got a little bit of rust inside of there. So what the previous owner did was take this whole thing apart, took a hone to cylinder number 1, cleaned it all out, and he said it really wasn't bad. He inspected the whole thing and it was just that cylinder that had just a hair of rust in it, and he said the hone took the rust. It was just surface rust, took it right out. He had to get a head gasket, this head gasket in here. I don't know how many people know engines, but this head, this thing's huge. This thing is stout. So this head gasket right in here, he had to get that made from an outfit in Ohio, I think it was. So he got it all put back together, new plugs, it's got new points in it, a new condenser, but I cannot get it to run yet. He couldn't get spark, and I'm running into the same issue. And what I've done is, this is an old Fairbanks Morse. I've just learned a lot about these over the last 3 days. That's the magneto, that's what gives it spark, and I'm fighting it. I brought this to an old boy yesterday, 2 days ago, and it had spark there. We were cranking on this thing with a drill, getting it spinning. It had great spark. What it turned out to be was this cap. You can see this cap is a little bit different than everything else, and the old cap just, it wasn't working right. So we got this cap on it. It was working great there. It's just really tough working on this without having any manuals. Like, it's really difficult to find manuals for this. I do have a manual coming up. I think Mr. Mustache found me a manual, so that's perfect. We need to figure out the timing on this. That's all it is. Yesterday I finally got it to spit and sputter. I'll show you over here. I got the carburetor taken off. So right here is the intake, and I've been spraying this starting fluid in here, trying to get it to go. I'll let you guys hear it crank over here. It won't start or anything, but it'll crank over. It doesn't sound bad. It spins free. The track, it rolls free. Both these levers here are free. I'm not positive. That might be a clutch lever and brake steering, or brake steering and brake steering, but this is a hand clutch. This is how you engage the tracks. This is your gearbox here, your shifter, and then this is your throttle over here, and your starter button is down in there. So we just got to figure the timing out. Once Mustache is up here, we'll get this thing timed. Between the two of us, we should be able to get it running. I need to clean the carburetor out. I haven't even cracked it. I'm sure that it's nasty. It's been sitting for 5 years at least. The fuel tank is pretty rusty. I'm gonna have to probably buy an aftermarket tank if I can find one to that dimension. It looks like it maybe is like an 8-gallon tank or a 10-gallon tank. It's kind of oval. You can see it tucked up top in there. It's the uppermost thing inside this shroud up in here. That's the gas tank, the fuel tank. Tracks are in great condition. I don't know if these are the original tracks or what, but the tracks are in great condition. I know at least the ram and the pump, both rams and that pump, this is the pump for the hydraulics in your reservoir, and that powers this. These do work. I was cranking on it just with the starter, holding the lever back up and down and cranking on that. It did put pressure against the blade. It totally put pressure against the blade, so that's cool. So I know that works. Everything works. It just needs to run. All we have to do is get this thing running, and I don't think it's going to be too bad. We just have to time it, and like I said, it's super difficult getting the correct information. What we've run into is this is not the mag that came on this machine from the factory. It's a different mag, and that is what is screwing us a little bit. It's really hard to match the two together now. And like I said, I had this thing spitting and sputtering and shooting smoke and flames out of the exhaust, so I had it pretty close. I just don't think that I was getting enough fuel, and it's not quite getting enough spark out of this magneto. These magnetos are pretty old. I don't know how many people know of like points and condenser. Points are super finicky. It's really hard to get points sometimes to work. We got it all pretty close. We just got to get it going. Once this thing's running, it's going to be a sweet little machine. I think it's got down pressure on these rams, so we'll be able to dig in a little bit. It weighs about 6,500 pounds without the blade, so I think we're probably maybe around the 72 region with the blade. I believe it was like a 30 horse engine. It's a 4-cylinder 300 cubic inch, so those pistons are huge. These pistons are just massive. They're like coffee cans in there. I'd love to see one. I bet you it's, I mean, it's obviously all steel. I don't know if anybody's into these old crawlers, but this seems to be a fair one if we can get it running, and I think we can. It's just a matter of time. Everything's in pretty good condition and it's all there. Oh yeah, you got to check this out too. I mean, in 1934 the engineering was just so crazy compared to how it is now. Right here, what we got, this is the throttle. This goes all the way through the engine. You see that back in there? Let me get some light on in there. It goes all the way back through the engine block into the other side. I'll show you what's on the other side over there. This is the governor right here. This is what's controlling our spark, and this is my throttle line. I mean, they had wild stuff going on back then. I can't even imagine, you know, the time and the thought that went into this to just to build this thing. I mean, to cut these gears back in 1934, I don't know, but it's a cool little machine. It's actually going to be a really useful piece of equipment on this property. As far as dozers go, it's a fairly small dozer, hence the name, but we're going to be able to run this thing all the way up our mountain here, and we're going to be able to skid logs out with it. We're going to be able to keep the road maintained going up and over. If anything were to slough off, we'll be able to clean it up. And it's a pretty good piece of equipment for fires. You know, the right dozer operator can get those things in some pretty extreme spots. It's actually really impressive. So it's going to be a great piece of equipment. It's not the most versatile piece of equipment that a guy can go out and get, but it's what we could afford at the time. Right now, what we're into it, trying to keep the full transparency with what we got going on. We've paid $1,000 for a really heavy boat anchor at this point because it doesn't run, but I think it's gonna run. So we're $1,000 into it and maybe 6 hours worth of my time. So soon enough it should run, hopefully at least, because I don't know how we're gonna drop that thing in the bottom of a lake if it doesn't run. It's gonna be hard to get out there. Well, thank you for watching this video, and as always, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe down at the bottom. It helps support me make videos like this and others like it. Thanks, we'll see you next time.